Hi, everybody out there. Today on First Step Science, we're going to talk about rocks, geology rocks, and we're going to do some things that we can actually eat to do an example of what rocks are all about. And we're going to be rock detectives. Check out my rock collection here on my table. Um, there are so many different kinds of rocks, and I just love to collect them when I'm out in nature or out at a beach or somewhere. I always tend to find a cool rock, and I pick one up here and there. There's always some sort of interesting thing about the rocks that I pick up. So the first thing we're going to do today is take a look at some of my rock collections and find out what makes them look like they do and where did they come from. So I'm going to change the camera to the tabletop so you can see them up close because I'm going to use my magnifying lens too. So here we go. Whoa, this is one of my favorite rocks that I picked up somewhere. And it looks like it's made out of two different things. Now, every time when you're at the beach, sometimes you'll see a dry rock and it'll look just plain. But if you add some water to your rock, it gets all shiny and the colors get brighter. And so that's what I'm doing right now. I'm putting a little bit of water on my rock so we can see it up close. And there, take a look at that. Look, this half of the rock looks like it's made out of something completely different than the other side of the rock. Same on this side. And it looks like they got mushed together. That is so interesting to me. I wonder how that even happened. Whoa. And look at this one. On this side, it looks like there's lots of different minerals and crystals in there. They got all mushed together. This side is much smoother and I can see, whoa, lots of different freckles in there. So I really think that that's an interesting rock. And then this one, oh, this is my favorite. I got this one near a cave. Look, it's got crystals on it. Whoa, how do crystals form? And when I touch this rock, it feels a little bit like sandpaper. And I turn it around and look, there's a layer, there's a crystal layer, and then there's another layer all the way through this rock. There's little layers with crystals. That is just so amazing. Every rock I have here today looks a little different from the other one. Now here's a smaller one. This one, again, looks like two different kinds of rocks got pressed together, and I'm wetting it so you can see it better. But look how the layers swirl. Oh my goodness, look at that. Wow. Oh, and this is my favorite rock. I got this at a beach. And to me, it looks like a dog. I'll show you again. There, now I got it all wetted. There's the dog's nose. There's the dog's ear. And all these little pebbles. And there's an eye in there somewhere. There's my dog. It's my dog rock. But it's actually, if you took a look at it, it looks like maybe it just fell in some cement. But no, when you look at it really up close, in between those pebbles is another hard rock holding them all together. How did they get combined like that? And why doesn't it fall apart? But there's my dog rock. I love that one. And then I have a whole bunch of little round rocks like that, and I found on the beach. There's a pretty one. Oh, rocks with round edges that just kind of roll. Oh, this is another one of my favorite ones. It looks like it's made out of a lot of different components, and the more I squirt it with water, the more the colors come out. So how did these rocks get like this? That's what we're going to talk about today. Oh, and here's one with a lot of different layers. Whoops, I'm going to just dip that in the water and then put it near the camera. Can you see how it looks like layers of mud got really solid. Oh, you can see it. When I turn it, you can see the levels of the rock. And if you could touch it, you could feel that there's a little bit of it there. You can see the layers on the camera. Wow. So I've got some really, I can't stop because every time I get out my rocks and take a look at them, I just find so many interesting things about them. Look at the layers on this one. When I hold it to the camera, there's the top layer. And then I turn it to the side. You can see the layers. So interesting. I just love looking at rocks and imagining what and trying to determine what has happened to that rock. How did it form? And so that's what we're going to talk about today. How did these rocks form and what kinds are they? These are all different kinds of rocks. So I'm going to change the camera back to FaceTime and we're going to look at some other things. Here we go. Okay, all right. So you saw all my crazy rocks and they were all different from each other in different ways that they look and different ways that they were formed. But they all came from 3 different kinds of rocks. And we're going to talk about those 3 different kinds of rocks. The first rock that we're going to talk about is igneous rock. And that is when rocks inside the earth, it's not solid. It's hot, way down deep below the earth's surface, way, 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 way to the middle of the earth. The rocks actually are liquid. There's so much heat and so much pressure. They're liquid. And sometimes we call that magma. And when the magma comes to the surface and comes out a crack in the earth, it can be a volcano. And so this is how I'm going to simulate it. There's all kinds of, there's the center of the earth, which is the magma, and it's all liquid and hot. And it's what the rocks are made out of, a lot of different minerals and things. It's not solid. So if we were to put pressure on that, and the earth's surface has a crust and it moves around a lot, but if the pressure on the surface of the earth is less than the pressure from the middle of the earth, sometimes cracks form and we get a volcano. So let's see what happens when I press on the magma. Sometimes the magma will come up through the cracks and form a big reservoir near the surface of the water. And then, whoa, did you see that? I made a mini volcano in my pan. So I'm taking and squeezing and I'm making a volcano right here. And of course, this is water, but that could be melted rock coming up from a volcano. And that's when it's liquid, we call it lava. Whoa, and it comes out of volcanoes and drips down the side of a mountain. So that's kind of how it happens, from pressure in the earth building up, becoming more than the pressure on the earth coming down, and boom, we get a volcano. So I'm gonna switch to something that you can do there at home. I have some ice cubes and I have a plate. And I have some ice cubes. And so if you have some ice cubes at home, we can see how lava coming out of the earth becomes solid. And then that would be our igneous rocks. Igneous rocks. So I put an ice cube on my plate. Actually, I'm going to put a couple of ice cubes on my plate. And if you have some magic shell ice cream topping, we're going to pour the topping over our ice cubes and see what happens. We're going to pretend that this magic shell ice cream topping is the lava coming up out of the volcano like we just showed. And we're going to put it over something to cool it. Now it's very hot when it comes out of the earth, but when it hits the earth's surface, it cools and becomes solid. So I've got some goo here that I'm putting over the top of my ice cubes. And let's see if it will get solid. Woo! Whoa, that didn't stay on my ice cube. Here we go. Now that, I can lick it off my fingers too, and it's good. Okay, so I'm cooling off my lava on top of my ice cubes, and that should form a shell, right? A hard shell. So as the lava cools, it forms a hard shell. There, I've got some on my finger, and it is getting solid a little bit. Oh, there it is. So lava cooling on the earth gets hot. It changes from a liquid to a solid. And of course, our experiment is always good to eat. There it is. And when I put my ice cube right over the one that I messed up and then touch it, yep, it's getting solid. Wow. So that's how lava forms igneous rock. And we're going to do another igneous rock experiment here too, because there's lots of different minerals, and igneous rock is made out of different things. Maybe when it first comes out of the volcano, it looks, you know, all the same, and it's a lava flow. But sometimes other rocks melt too, and so that's what we're going to do next here with our other experiment. And I'm going to change this over to the tabletop camera so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, for this, we're going to need some graham crackers, a little cup, little cupcake cup, and we're going to need some, oops, hold on. We're going to need some M&Ms and some marshmallows. And so the M&Ms and the marshmallows and the graham crackers signify different kinds of rocks, different kinds of minerals that rocks are made out of. And so if you take and break up the graham cracker, I'm going to do that right here on the tabletop camera. All right, so there it is. So I got my cupcake paper, and I'm going to take some graham crackers and put it in there. Different kinds of rocks can combine together. You saw all my rocks with all the different minerals in them and different markings on them. So right now, that's what I'm doing, and we're going to melt them all. There we go. A little bit of graham cracker for one kind of rock. How about some M&Ms for another kind of rock? Just like that. Okay. Got a bunch of different ones in there, and a little bit of marshmallows for another different kind of rock that got all mixed together as the earth moves around. There we go. Okay, so there it is. Now, what happens if it gets pushed below the Earth's surface down to where the magma is? It melts. It'll melt and turn to a liquid. And so if you have a microwave, you can take your cupcake paper and stick it in for about 15 seconds, and you can melt it. Or if you have a hairdryer, you can hit it with that, but it takes longer. So if you've got your rocks all together, your marshmallows and M&Ms and graham crackers, you can stick it in the microwave, which I did earlier, but you can do that right now. And then this is what happened when I melted it. And now I melted it, and look, I got a wonderful snack. All of my M&Ms melted, and and they combined with the graham cracker and the marshmallow, and now I've got this yummy, edible igneous rock, which is a lot like the rock that I've got down here on the ground, like that one, all combined together. So that's how some igneous rocks are formed. They get melted together underneath the surface, way down deep in the surface of the earth, where the rocks are subject to heat and pressure, and they melt. So you can do that with your microwave. Just put your creation together like this, and it comes out almost a little cookie that you can eat. Igneous rock. Okay, So good. All right. So now we got that together. But that's not the only way that rocks are formed. That was just the first way, with heat, lots of heat, melting things together. And I'm still looking at my, oh, my magic shell is getting harder and harder. Now it's not getting too squishy on my hand. Yep. It's starting to get solid. The liquid becomes solid. That's igneous rock. So now let's go back to FaceTime camera and talk about a different kind of rock. The next rock we're going to talk about is the sedimentary rock. So we had igneous, which is created by heat. Now we've got sedimentary to talk about. And that's when you've got a bunch of rocks and weather happens. You know, water is some of the most, I don't want to say destructive, but it really affects the earth, and it washes things away and causes things to erode. And when you get a smooth rock like this with smooth edges, you can see that maybe it was tumbled in the waves. So the rocks get little cracks in them and start to break up, and little pieces of them fall apart because water and weather and earthquakes and rocks crunching, sliding back and forth, break off little pieces. See how this rock has sharp edges? I think this was a chunk of rock that got broken off of another bigger rock. So when that happens, little chunks of rocks start to wash away and maybe form layers. Now what I have here in front of me is a big pan of sand, and you can see a little bit of how erosion happens. I have some water here, and I'm going to pour some water right down on my sand, and you can see what happens. Now I've got a big hole where I poured the water, and it washed my sand right into the corner of my pan. And that's erosion. So little chunks of rock break off and are washed away by the weather and water, and they start to form layers. So in my bottle here, I put some red rocks that I got from an aquarium. I put some more sand, and I'm going to put some water inside of it. And we're going to take a look and see how maybe sediment happens, sedimentary rocks. So I'm filling up my bottle. There we go. A little bit more so you can see it better on camera. Whoa, okay. There we go. All right, so I'm going to put my hand over the top, and I'm going to shake it up. Whoa, look at that. Now, if you take a look at that, you see how cloudy the water got? But then it'll start to clear. And it looks like my aquarium gravel, which was heavier than the little tiny particles of sand, fell down first, and then my sand fell down on the top of it. So water and weather washes away little parts of the rocks that break off, and they settle down in layers. Check that out. Now, the longer I hold this here, the more you'll be able to see the layers of my rock. First the red, and then the sand, and it settles out and forms layers. And we saw that when I was showing this rock. Can you see the layers? So we're going to make an edible sedimentary sandwich. That's what we're going to do next. So I have, oops, I have a plate and a piece of bread. Okay, plate, and I have a piece of bread, and I'm going to put my piece of bread down on my plate because we're going to make layers and call it a sedimentary sandwich so that we can watch the layers that we were illustrating with our water and our sand and our rocks. So to do that, I'm going to move some things out of the way and turn on my overhead camera. And there is my sandwich. Let's see if we can do that here really quick. Whoops. Tabletop camera. Here we come. There we go. There's my bread. Oops, my plate's a little wet, but that's okay. Okay, so what layers am I going to add to make my sedimentary sandwich, to make it not only cool for a sedimentary rock, but to make it yummy to eat? Well, I had put some ideas. Also going to need a knife. I got a plastic knife and I've got a regular table butter knife. Well, I like peanut butter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some peanut butter for my next layer. My first layer is bread. My next layer is going to be peanut butter. But you could, if you don't like peanut butter or you can't eat peanut butter, one thing that you could do is cream cheese. I opened up my cream cheese package, and so I love peanut butters today. So I'm going to do peanut butter on my bread and spread my next layer right over the bread. This is just like making a peanut butter sandwich, right? But when you start to think about how rocks are formed, this is kind of the way it happens. First, there's one layer of rocks that maybe got washed down. And then over time, very slowly, the next layer gets washed and settles over the first layer. Now, remember this rock? There's two layers there. This one isn't sedimentary, but two layers happen. Rock layers happen. So there's our next layer is peanut butter. So what would be a good next layer to put onto my sandwich? Let's see. I could put some cream cheese. Oh, you know what I could do? I still have some graham cracker left. So I could break up some pieces of graham cracker and sprinkle it on as a layer. Boy, this would be really good, I think. And I'm sprinkling a layer of graham cracker over my peanut butter layer. So now I've got three layers. I've got bread, peanut butter, and graham cracker. Oh, what else have I got? I've got raisins. So this is really good. This is my third layer. Now this is my fourth layer. Bread, peanut butter, graham crackers. This is my fourth layer. I'm going to put raisins, or if you had mini chocolate chips, you could do anything like that. Anything that you really like to eat, you can do for the layers of your sedimentary sandwich. There, I want to put a lot of raisins on there because that looks really, really good. Let's see. Or if you had some slices of banana, you could slice up some banana and stick that on there. Whatever you like to eat for lunch. Okay, so there we go. Oh, you know what? Seeds are always a good one. So these different items that I'm putting on my sedimentary sandwich stand for different minerals that rocks are made out of. And so I've got some seeds here. These are sesame seeds. I like those. So I'm going to sprinkle another layer on top of that. There we go. Whoa, that looks actually pretty good. And so if I want to make this into a sandwich, I'm just going to cut it. Look at all those layers. Cutting through the layers, Oops, sticking to my knife. And then I'm going to flop it over on top of each other like that. And so now I've got, let's take a look. I got layers, a sedimentary sandwich. I got bread, peanut butter, graham crackers, raisins, then more raisins, then more sesame seeds, then graham cracker, peanut butter, and bread. So there are all my yummy layers. Da-da-da-da. And that's how a sedimentary rock is formed. Different layers, one on top of each other. Very good. Okay, so we had igneous rock, which was made by rocks melting and magma down deep in the earth, cooling and hardening into a rock. We've got a sedimentary rock like our sandwich right there. And now we're going to talk about the next rock, and that is metamorphic. Now, if you have ever thought about butterflies, you know that the word metamorphosis is describing the change when a caterpillar turns into a butterfly. That's a big change for that insect. So with the rocks, the metamorphic rocks, that is a big change. So what we need for this one is the supplies. Oh, I lost them. Oh, here they are. I have some Skittles. No, not Skittles. I have Starburst candy. And I unwrapped most of them. Starburst candy. And they look like this. And what I'm going to do is take my knife and cut it into little pieces. So if you have some Starburst candy, what you do is cut them into smaller pieces. Now we're going to see how a rock can go through a change and what would cause that change. That's what we're going to wonder. There's one Starburst. I almost said Skittles. Skittles wouldn't work because they have a hard shell on them, but these are kind of gummy and flat. Well, one of the things that causes rocks to change, of course, is heat. Look at all those. I'm going to do a couple more because we need a bunch. So cut your Starburst in little pieces. And then we're going to start to combine them. Those are all different rocks. A pink rock, a blue rock, a yellow rock, and one more to cut. And that's what I started with, this Skittles. Oh, I keep saying Skittles. That's what I started with, Starburst. And they're cuttable. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to add heat. How are we going to do that? Well, we start picking them up and pressing them. Pressure, intense pressure. So when I take my thumb and my fingers and I squeeze them, that creates heat and it also flattens them down. So I'm going to do that to every one of my pieces of Starburst. I'm applying intense pressure, pressure, pressure. Look at that. And I'm going to try to put them together. Oh, there they go. So squish them. Heat. The heat of my hands and the pressure when I squeeze them between my fingers is making them change. And now I'm putting them down on my plate and pressing them together. And underneath the earth, yeah, there's intense pressure which causes heat. And they're not turning into magma, but they're just combining together into one big, huge, I can't get it off the plate, different kind of rock. Cool. And you can tell, if you're a rock detective, which rocks have gone through this process, the process of maybe pressure causing heat and causing them to kind of combine and almost melt together. You can tell because the layers are kind of wavy. Yeah, kind of wavy lines in your rocks. See how I'm getting wavy lines? So we'll do some more of these. Pressure, pressure, pressure. And it's a little sticky, but you can see how a metamorphic rock going through the change is because of pressure and heat. It's coming out with something completely different. Here we go. More pressure, more heat, more combining. There we go. Metamorphic rock formed by the pressure of being under the earth, creating heat and melting them together. And I've got something entirely different. Now, the more I squish on this and press on this, I'm even getting the colors to combine, I think. And I got very sticky hands. Whoa, wavy, wavy layers. There we go. Okay, one more. Press that in there. Press that in there. And I am done. A metamorphic rock. Oh, look at this side. Wavy layers. There we go. Okay, so back to the camera FaceTime. There we go. There we go. Okay, so we're gonna just kind of wrap it up here. Remember that there's all imagine how they were formed. And when you do that, just remember that they all come from 3 different kinds of rocks. Igneous, which is the liquid turning into a solid as it cools off. And our little cookie, here it is, that we made. The liquid turning back into a solid. And then it starts all over again. And it's a cycle. So liquid turning into a solid is the igneous. Then there's the sedimentary rock that we made with our sedimentary sandwich, different layers. And then there's the metamorphic rock, which is little chunks of lots of different kinds of rocks underneath the earth with pressure and heat. So igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic. There. So that's it for today. And thanks for coming to Kids Craft Lab. We hope you got a chance to make some really cool rocks. I saw something I had never ever seen before. And here's where you get to make a choice. Was it a giant Tyrannosaurus Rex? And I'm just gonna stick some pie cones in my box, and then the fun starts. I just start rolling them around. The air rushing out of the balloon is gonna push that balloon up. So let's see what happens. All right, 1, 2, 3. Oh, wow. So that's how rockets kind of work. We are going to build 2 different kinds of rockets today.